because last night was pretty cool. I've been enjoying an ultra long weekend, effectively, because basically the warehouse decided not to bother opening on Monday, and then there was no Christmas Eve either, right? So that on top of the weekend, it's just been a very pleasant reset, right? Spending this time in a warehouse, I would have assumed that it still would have been busy like that, because it's based on shipping orders and stuff. Some people are going to want to have overnight situations, but that's not really what's up. Oop. I'm gonna have my system's gonna be off and on, but that's okay. All right. So in this time, I got to enjoy last night. My buddy Headless Giant was live. He shot me a message encouraging me to hop on, and so I hung out with Headless for I think most of his show. The show was like 2 hours or something like that, and we had a good long esoteric discussion on a number of things. So go check that out. Right now I'm a pinch fuzzy on all the details of what we talked about, because there was definitely a weavy kind of influence going on, but we were certainly talking a little bit about mycelium mushrooms was a little bit a part of that, but that was kind of that was more of an introduced subject by another person on the panel, who was on the quieter side, but hung out with us, and we had a little discussion about some Dionysian stuff, because of the whole thing with the heart being put between the thighs of Zeus, and then he burst forth from there, right? Which I called it an allusion to the sexual nature of the life, right? It's just like the heart represents the soul, which is going to be in the sperm, and it is from your testicles, which is placed right next to your thigh to burst out from your thigh. It's just simple. Just they took out a lot of words just to be polite, right? It was trying to explain something sexual in a but do it in a, actually it should be going straight, in a mystical fashion. Yeah. Oh, what's this guy doing? But anyway, it was be done, but it was explaining it in a mystical fashion, because where today we use all these kind of very bland, we use godless language, right? We use this we use these words for elements and energies and feelings and whatever. It's all very scientific, very analytical, very compound material. Here, our understanding of the world was through various principles of what gods were, and greater spirits and titans and all manner of things that decorated our universe. And so incredible natural things that were happening, or incredible feats of technology that were happening, they all had different kinds of mythological representations of what was going on, which made more sense to the educated than what they give people who are not truly educated. Right? This is the Terrence Howard dilemma of lying about a math equation. Right? This is like this kind of thinking where the simple idea is that you're using two different contexts for the representation of the number for language purposes, to explain things that are going on with individual simple units of what is identified, right? You know, are we counting trees, or are we counting atoms? Because there's one tree, many atoms. Are we counting all the atoms amongst many trees? And are we not counting how many atoms are in each individual tree, because we're not counting the individual trees? This, right? This is why we have an agreement about the language of math for how we convey it. It does not mean that there is a uniform definition to the words we use to represent the very concept of number and math. That's just there to drive us crazy, right? I often think that this is akin to what may have been going on in Babylon when their legendary tower fell, right? Which I think that there was a real tower that was not as grand as the mythological one of the book, but the point is that the mythological tower was older, especially because that mythological tower is technically a replacement for the world tree, because mankind's soul needs that axis mundi, right? And so with the Tower of Babel, it's an engineering project. It requires a strong, comprehensive understanding of physics and the qualities of the materials that you're using. And if you aren't speaking the same language, you aren't accomplishing anything, right? Just like you work on a job site for anything, there's particular terms by which everyone is speaking, so that way the guy on the ground knows what to tell his boss, and his boss knows what to tell the guy on the ground, where a simple term or so means a whole complicated thing that you'd have to be looking at and using like a whole, and like explaining it in a whole passage, right? You know, just to explain a certain safety procedure, right? You know, I have specific experience with this because I have my OSHA 10 certification, right? So there's a lot of terms that you learn in there, and those terms give you the short form for a very fucking long-winded safety principle that you had to mull over and prove that you comprehend in order to get your certification of job site safe. basically. Right? So, the Tower of Babel is about what happens when a civilization loses its magical language and falls into the profane. Right? But that's what that actually means. Right? Like, oversimplified Christian thinking was just that, the hubris of man. And because we don't understand the manner in which they were building the tower, now anytime mankind wants to achieve something, we have to have a goddamn fucking tarot tower card fucking moment. Like we did something horribly sinful and fucking wrong. Because all the context is drawn out of it. Because theoretically, in the manner in which God is supposed to exist and the Bible is supposed to say things go, just the merit worshiping Yahweh solely, or something that they would say, oh, look, that is Yahweh by a different name. Anything like that. Well, that by that merit means that they're gonna fail. But no, that's not the way it is. There are pagan lands that do okay in the Bible, too. Downplayed because it's not their fucking story. I think Cyrus the Great was one of these fucking Mesopotamian region kings, or like a Babylonian king or whatever, that was like a good guy. I don't even think he was into Jehovah or whatever, but he was like a godly type of man or whatever, and his kingdom or his empire or whatever was, by some rational terms, a great place. Right? So those are little things. Or like the fact that like Egypt was doing great didn't have to change a goddamn thing about its life. Right? But they were exploiting the labor of the Hebrew people, as the mythos goes, right? And so there's another instance where the God of the Bible also is not having that big of a fucking grievance with the Egyptians and their gods, right? Christians ought to fucking pay attention to a couple of these shadow beats in the book they fucking claim to read so much, because if you're gonna bother to be diluted by the histomythorical convolutions of the Bible, if you're gonna bother to fucking try and justify that as your fucking divine providence on earth, then you better fucking start drawing proper context, as well as knowing the historical fact that you don't have a claim to the ability to say that the quote in this particular scroll is correlated to the quote in this particular scroll, especially across testaments. Especially across testaments. But there's a reason why people are having this weird conversation now about Job. Job, which, Job is considered to be older than fucking Genesis 1. And, it's an early folklore about dealing with karmic natural forces and not blaming the god of these forces for your fucking woes and suffering. Now, the framework in which we are taught this story and the way it seems in the very long analytical way that the Bible breaks down a life like this, that it comes off. It comes off poorly. It comes off as like all this, this sadism. Like you're missing probably some obvious context that people would have seen being a person of Job's stature in the day that this story was known to circulate among tribes. Right? And they probably would have looked at it like, yeah, he's got all this stuff. He couldn't really take care of most of it. He was being a bit foolish, right? It's just like, it's great that he has all that wealth, but like, how are you gonna fucking keep all of it fucking together? All this wealth. Right? These are questions. Right? Like this is natural versus karma. So yeah, like this is Saturn, right? Saturn teacher, right? So this can get convoluted because of the those who would wish there to be Gnosticism, a demiurge, right? By taking four people that lived in a world of high Saturnian worship, meaning they would have been a world of high work ethic, and it's about that line between hard work ethic and being exploited. And what do we take for granted or not? And then, of course, there's the entire matter of Satan's role in it, and remembering that this is one of the earliest stories, meaning this is one of the earliest psychological frameworks in publishing that was wanted to be put out by the people preserving these stories. They wanted this story first, with this playwright between God and Satan. And that's why Job has become an important conversation, because it had become an important conversation to find out which of these old ass fucking stories, as an actual story in circulation to contextual canon, to the very Old Testament, is the first one known to be told and written, right? And it turns out to be Job. All of that makes a certain amount of sense. Because what Satan is trying to tell this God is that, listen, Job's got it great, but he's not prepared for the fucking future. He's got it real good, but he's got no fucking security. If he gets sick, he don't know what to fucking do. And then he's gonna fucking blame you for it. Watch him fucking blame you, because he's an idiot who didn't fucking foresee the future, right? And this is the same thing that happens to Egypt in the plagues. Because one of the things that I thought was neat, I felt was well demonstrated, at least in part, in that Christian Bale movie where Bale played Moses. It was an okay film. That each plague set the conditions for the next plague, which is how you got like all the locusts popping up at a certain point because of, or all the flies show up because of all the dead and people getting sick because of the blood in the water and da 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 da. So these things would have also been auguries from their own gods. Things were happening to crocodiles, which would have alarmed the cult of Sobek. Kek, because of the frogs. I don't know if there's a locust god, but there's Kepra has a beetle or a scarab beetle for a head, so that kind of that at least counts for the insect kingdom, right? So like that, all those plagues symbolically meant something. In the Egyptians' deep psychological understanding of things, right? And there was probably something that just because the book of Exodus has their mythological explanation for whatever was happening to Egypt at that time, does not mean that the Egyptians didn't have a really good mythological explanation also. Now imagine that mythological explanation of what happened to Egypt then was also a critical clue to the events as they really happened, because there's certain things you can't explain in the manner in which the Bible asks you to think, or dictates you to think, practically. And sorry I'm not engaged with you guys in the chat. It's very you know what? Hold on a second. Let's see. Where's my brightness at? Pinch higher. There we go. Let's see here. Saniko, what's up? Nikki, hi. Lucy Cipher. Louis Cipher. Cute. Nicholas, Peaceful Penguin. Alright, cool. Nice to see you, Louis Safer. Cute name. Okay. Just need a breath. That's right. So, Egypt. So, Egypt at this time, there was a critical understanding, an idea of talking about how things had gone wrong, right? But because the book of Exodus doesn't really get into the details of what's happening within the anthropological makeup of the civilization, like what kinds of things they're going through, right? Like, are the history books going to make proper correlations to what was going on in our culture in 2016 that led to the manner in which things are manifest now? You see what I mean? Right? The things that are the more important footnotes of history, right? There's certain causalities to why we are in certain situations, like why there is destabilization in Syria again, right? As far as I know, there are no accounts of the plagues or an exodus occurring from Egypt's history. If anyone knows of any besides the Bible. Right, well, I think that the book of Exodus is talking about something a little bit older. That also was more of an internal record within Egypt itself and is being occulted from us based on A, what's been buried in their sands, and B, what's been destroyed, and C, what they have hieroglyphically lied about. Like saying it says one thing on a wall when it says another, so on and so forth. One of these days, I feel like I have to go back over and do a small dissertation on the relief, the Egyptian relief that they found in, I think, one of the temples, because there's a handful of people that there's a lot of people that don't look right into everything about it, and they don't realize what they're looking at, and to me, it's obvious what it fucking looks like. And I saw a demonstration of the actuality of what it is. On a picture on the internet, right? So you've got this hieroglyph, and it's the famous hieroglyphs where one looks like a UFO, one looks like a fucking Apache fucking attack helicopter, a tank or something. Like there's these like four modern looking fucking machine looking things. But you look at the relief is damaged. This is something that eroded away, and then somebody wrote over it. And it's like, imagine you wrote something down, and then you didn't have an eraser, and you just fucking wrote over it, right? Because we're talking about something that happened. We're talking about something that happened later on for some reason. And it wasn't for the purposes of, hey, this looks like an Apache helicopter if I put these two hieroglyphs together. No, it wasn't that at all. Somebody was trying to deface the temple and rewrite history, and they didn't do a very good job at covering up what was underneath what they were writing. They do this all over the place. This is why you run around. There's parts of hieroglyphs on walls that have been etched off. There's people's faces that have been chiseled out. Some believe for racial reasons. I don't know. That's a certain kind of claim. All right. So at any rate, I'm gonna do this real quick. I'm probably gonna log off here in a second because my GPS is acting funky, and I think I'm pretty close to my exit. Sometimes I forget precisely where I gotta exit. So at any rate, and the thing is that the Book of Exodus would not be covering like a literalism. Like, don't think of it like it's any way to track what we're looking for, right? But we're talking about something that is an explanation for a decline of Egypt's civilization, mythologically speaking. Look for a marking point where something went the fuck on. And don't just look at fucking history books. Look at the shit that people were using to write the history books. Because that's what we can do now because internet. All right, I'll catch you guys later.